When we talk about the first position women beg for, it is deceptively simple, the position of being listened to without defensiveness. Most men assume they are listening because they are silent, but silence is not listening. It is often just waiting for a turn to respond, to correct, to defend. What women long for is not a partner who sits quietly rehearsing a counterpoint, but one who surrenders his impulse to protect his ego long enough to simply witness her truth. This is not passivity, it is presence. It is the discipline of placing her words above your urge to justify yourself. Psychologically, this position satisfies one of the deepest human needs, to feel understood. When a woman speaks and senses no resistance, no wall of rebuttal, she relaxes into authenticity. Defensiveness signals danger. It tells her that the relationship is a battlefield where her voice is a threat. But when her partner listens with openness, she feels her identity is safe. That safety allows her to express herself fully, without calculation, without fear of rejection. Philosophically, the act of listening is a radical act of humility. It requires acknowledging that the world does not revolve around our perspective, that another's experience has equal validity. To listen without defensiveness is to admit that truth is not a possession but a shared space, one where two realities can coexist without one needing to dominate the other. This position costs a man his pride but rewards him with her trust, and in the end, trust is more seductive than charm, more enduring than desire. So the question becomes, do you want to win the argument, or do you want to win her, because you cannot have both? The second position women beg for is vulnerability without shame. This is not weakness, not fragility, but the raw honesty of showing one's inner world without the mask of performance. A woman longs to step into a space where her tenderness, her fears, even her contradictions, are not used against her, but are welcomed as proof of her humanity. Too often, she is told directly or indirectly that to be soft is to be naive, that to be open is to be foolish. The tragedy is that many men reinforce this belief, meeting her vulnerability with dismissal or discomfort rather than reciprocity. But here is the truth: vulnerability is contagious. When a man refuses to shame a woman for her openness, when instead he mirrors it with his own, he creates a sacred position of mutual exposure. And in that space, intimacy deepens. The walls that keep love shallow are dismantled, not through grand gestures, but through small acts of courage. The kind that says, I bleed too, and I am not afraid for you to see it. From a psychological perspective, shame is corrosive. It teaches the heart to hide, to shrink, to perform safety instead of living it. Yet, when shame is removed, when acceptance replaces judgment, vulnerability becomes power. It transforms the relationship from performance to truth, from pretense to presence. Philosophically, it is the paradox of love. The more we expose, the stronger we become. To share what could hurt us and find it embraced is to discover a strength far greater than any armor. So, ask yourself, do you offer her a place where she can fall without fear, or only a stage where she must keep performing? Because love is never found in performance. It is born only in the courage of being unmasked. The third position women beg for is to be prioritized without feeling like they are in competition. This doesn't mean she demands to be the center of a man's universe, nor does it mean his ambitions or responsibilities must vanish. What it means is she longs to feel deliberately chosen. Too often, men unintentionally relegate the relationship to the margins, behind work, behind friends, behind distractions. And while she may never say it outright, she feels the silent ache of being treated as incidental rather than essential. Psychologically, prioritization speaks to security. To be someone's priority is to know you don't have to fight for space in their life. It communicates without words, I see you, I value you, I choose you. When that assurance is absent, insecurity grows. She begins to measure herself against the things that take your attention, your career, your phone, your pride. And in this invisible contest, she never wins because the competition was never hers to begin with. Philosophically, prioritization is a question of order. Every life is governed by what we place first. To deliberately elevate someone above convenience, above ego, above distraction, is to make a statement about what we believe has lasting value. And in relationships, that act of ordering is the very proof of love. It turns affection into commitment and desire into devotion. The paradox is this: when a man makes his woman feel like she is his priority, he does not lose himself, he finds himself reflected in her loyalty, her respect, her trust. It is not sacrifice, it is investment. So consider this: if she always has to wonder whether she matters most, she will eventually stop wondering. And once a woman stops wondering, she starts walking away. The fourth position women beg for is the space to be admired intellectually without being diminished. A woman does not want to be tolerated in conversation, she wants to be engaged. She does not want her insights to be brushed aside or treated as decoration to male authority. She wants to feel the weight of her mind recognized. Too often, men mistake admiration for competition. They interpret a woman's brilliance as a challenge rather than an invitation, and instead of leaning into dialogue, they rush to dominate it. What she is asking for is not victory over you, but partnership with you, an exchange where her intelligence is not threatening, but magnetic. Psychologically, this position speaks to dignity. To value someone's mind is to honor their essence, because thoughts reveal the core of how a person makes sense of the world. When a woman feels her mind is dismissed, she feels her identity is dismissed. But when a man invites her perspective with curiosity, he unlocks not just conversation, but intimacy. Respect in the realm of thought translates into trust in the realm of love. Philosophically, this position is about equality. True equality is not about sameness, but about reciprocity, about creating a space where two intellects sharpen one another rather than silence one another. It is the recognition that wisdom is not gendered, that truth is not owned, and that growth is only possible when pride gives way to openness. And here lies the deeper truth. A woman who feels admired for her mind becomes more alive, more radiant, more connected. Her brilliance does not eclipse you, it elevates you. So the real question is, will you try to outshine her, or will you allow her light to illuminate you both? The fifth position women beg for is the position of safety without control. Too often, men confuse the two. They believe that to protect is to dictate, that to provide safety is to impose rules and restrictions. But real safety is not born of domination, it is born of presence. A woman does not want to feel like she is in a cage, even a gilded one. She wants to feel that she can move freely, speak freely, live freely, while knowing that in her freedom she is never abandoned. Psychologically, safety is the foundation of intimacy. Without it, vulnerability cannot exist, trust cannot deepen, love cannot endure. A woman's nervous system is attuned to signals of danger, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. When she senses control disguised as protection, her body and soul resist. But when she feels consistent presence, when your actions align with your words, when your steadiness outweighs your pride, her guard comes down, and she rests in the rare peace of being both free and secure. Philosophically, this position raises the question, what is strength? True strength is not authority over another's choices, but the courage to stand beside them in their choices, even when it challenges your ego. It is not the power to confine, but the endurance to remain when things feel uncertain. Real protection liberates rather than limits, shelters without suffocating. And here is the paradox. The more you try to control her, the further she drifts. The more you create space while offering safety, the closer she leans. Because at her core, a woman does not long for a guard who locks the door. She longs for a man who stands at it, saying, "Go where you must, but know you will always return to refuge here." The sixth position women beg for is intimacy that goes beyond mechanics. Too often, physical connection is reduced to technique, to a checklist of actions or performances. But intimacy is not about performance, it is about presence. What she longs for is not merely a body pressed against hers, but a soul attuned to hers. She wants to feel that when you touch her, you are not just seeking release, you are seeking her. Psychologically, the body does not separate from the heart. If she feels unseen, unheard, or unsafe outside of the bedroom, her body will not fully open within it. Desire cannot be forced, it must be nurtured. True physical intimacy is not about speed or dominance, but about awareness, the subtle attentiveness that asks, what does she need to feel cherished here, in this moment? When she feels that, passion stops being transactional and becomes transformational. Philosophically, intimacy reveals the deepest paradox of love. The body is temporary, but the experience it carries can be eternal. When physical closeness is infused with trust, with respect, with love, it transcends the physical act and becomes something profoundly spiritual. It is no longer about taking pleasure, but about giving presence, about using the body not as an instrument of conquest, but as a language of devotion. And the truth is this: a woman does not beg for perfection in intimacy, she begs for authenticity. She does not need flawless performance. She needs the reassurance that you are fully there, unmasked, undistracted, and devoted. Because when intimacy is real, it is not just the body that is touched, it is the soul, and nothing leaves a deeper mark than that.